What's going on, everyone? As you can see, I'm in beautiful Zihuatanejo, Mexico, and I just spent a month in Argentina with a travel community known as Wi-Fi Tribe. Today I wanted to talk about Wi-Fi Tribe, talk about my experience with it, and maybe help you decide whether or not you should join yourself. So let's get into it. So what is Wi-Fi Tribe? Wi-Fi Tribe is a global community of remote workers and travelers. It's a program for people who enjoy traveling and living in place with other people who also work remotely. Essentially, you can apply to join this community, and then once you're approved, you can sign up to go on trips, which they call chapters, with the other community members. So everyone lives together, everyone works remotely, and then outside of work, you get to explore and experience the city or the country that you're in. It's similar to other programs. You may have heard of like Remote Year, Outsite, Hacker Paradise, Nomad Collective. There's dozens of them. But Wi-Fi is just one of the offerings that does something similar. One of the main differences is there's a interview process to get in. So you have to apply and then go through a whole interview process to see if you're a good fit for the community. They also have different trip offerings than other programs, obviously. So they'll go to certain places, other communities might go to other places. But there is a lot of overlap. Common ones like Medellin, Mexico City, places like that will have a lot of digital nomad trips. In Wi-Fi Tribe, there's also different time schedules for trips. So in this community, everyone starts a trip together and then ends the trip together. So there's no one like coming and going, no one moving in and out of the house. It's like one start date and one end date for each chapter. Also, all trips are a month long, aside from what they call unplugs, which is basically a 1 week like vacation where no one's really expected to work. It's all about enjoying the area. Other communities that aren't Wi-Fi Tribe offer shorter or longer trips, but Wi-Fi Tribe, they're pretty much all always a month. Another key difference is with Wi-Fi Tribe, a lot less planning is done for you. So in other communities, if you book a trip, they'll have scheduled activities where you can do yoga or kayaking in a place, where they have activities that they already schedule and work out for you, but you can just join. Wi-Fi Tribe, they don't really offer that. It's pretty much all community run. It usually operates like someone wants to go do this, and they'll post in the Slack group and say, hey, I'm doing this, who wants to join? So it's all community led. There's nothing really sponsored. So with Wi-Fi Tribe, the cost of the chapter really only includes the accommodation and then of course the community itself. So with other communities, they'll provide you with a co-working space, for example, that you can do your work in. Wi-Fi Tribe doesn't do that, but they make sure that the Wi-Fi is functional at your home that you're staying in. And they have backups on top of backups to make sure that you always have internet. I will go through the cons later on in this video, and the reason I didn't include this particular thing as either a pro or a con is it's just how Wi-Fi Tribe works. I personally prefer that they don't bake in the cost of a co-working space because I tend to not really use them. I tend to work in my room. That's how I work best. If you would get a co-working space anyways, maybe another community is better for you. So the process of joining Wi-Fi Tribe starts with an application. So you send an application online, and then they'll invite you to do an interview call where you can schedule what time works best for you. So the interview is pretty casual. It's just a conversation with one of the employees of Wi-Fi Tribe. Basically, they just want to get to know who you are, get a sense of what kind of person you are, and what kind of travel style you have. What they're really looking for is to see if you're a good fit for the community and if the community is a good fit for you. So then after the interview, you'll get an email to hear back whether you got in or not, and then from there they'll give you instructions on how to actually join, paying the membership fee, how to join the Slack channel. So the membership fee is $500 a year just to be part of the community. That doesn't include any of the chapters or anything. But you'll get an email to pay that, join the Slack group, and then instructions on how to book your first chapter. In my specific case, the application process, I applied on September 24th. I received the email to schedule my interview the next day on the 25th. I scheduled my interview for October 2nd, so about a week later, and I completed a personality test they sent me after the interview. And then I ended up paying and joining on October 4th. So once you have accepted your invite to join Wi-Fi Tribe, then you're able to book your first chapter. So you can go online to the chapter website, choose whatever chapter you want to join, and choose whether or not you want a shared room, where you save a little bit of money, get a private room, which you pay a little bit more, and then usually there's some upgrades from there. So you can get an upgrade that's usually a few $100s extra that might have a nicer balcony or a better workstation or something like that. I think it depends on the location and the house. But you can book your chapter. The only things you can't book yet are what they call unplugged, which I mentioned earlier is a 1 week vacation with the community, that you're not really expected to work. It's kind of just you go enjoy the location that you're in. But yeah, it's time to, like the name suggests, unplug. The other thing that you can't join yet is what's called a co-live, which there's usually a few every once in a while. And these are kind of like chapters. The only difference is there isn't a host. So on chapters, there's usually one employee from Wi-Fi Tribe that is there to host you there. They take care of all the logistics, they handle any issues, and resolve any problems that come up. For the co-lives, however, there is no host on those. I think they do that when they're kind of trying to test drive a place. They warn you that there's no host, so if there's any issues that arise, it's kind of up to the members and the community that's there to figure those out, because there's no host to help you. So after you have your first chapter booked, then you're going to want to find your flight there, figure out all the logistics of getting to there, from there, where you're going to go before, where you're going to go after, all that fun stuff. And while you're on the chapter, there's really not much set out for you. It's kind of a clean slate, which I personally like. It's really up to you to make the most of what you want that month to be. So the only thing that Wi-Fi Tribe does kind of hold is what's called Tribal Tuesday. And Tribal Tuesday is a weekly meeting that is usually on Tuesday, where you kind of talk about logistics for the week, talk about any weekend trips that people want to go on, or bring up any other concerns, and usually afterwards you do something fun, like do like a wine tasting or play games or something like that. It's kind of a fun get-together that the community has every week. That's the only thing that's, I would say, is semi-required. So then once you're in your location, it's kind of business as normal. You work your job. People are usually working depending on their time zone hours. People like to go work at a cafe together, or go work from a co-working space together, or afterward get dinner, do something fun, go out. And what you do really depends on who you're with, where you are, and all that fun stuff. All right, moving on to part 2. So now, this is the section where I talk to you about my opinions on Wi-Fi Tribe. So I'll give you what I thought about Wi-Fi Tribe, how my experience was with my first chapter in Argentina, and I'll give you the pros and cons from my point of view. So the first pro is that it's an amazing way to experience a place and meet people, and it's a great way to network. It's cool because arriving in a place, you instantly have a huge group of people who are excited to meet you and all want to hang out. If you go on multiple chapters, there's a good chance that there's already someone else that you know from a previous chapter, and it's just like you already have your friends there. That was the case for some of the people on the chapter that I was on. And just over the course of a month of living with the same people, and that's usually people that are all very like-minded because they're traveling and working, doing the same thing you are, it's probably one of the best ways I can think of to quickly bond with people. Great way to meet people and experience cool places. The second pro I have is the people itself. So this can't be understated. This is my personal favorite part about Wi-Fi Tribe. Everyone that was on my chapter were all super great, and honestly, I enjoyed every single one of them. There wasn't a single person that I disliked, and I don't think I got lucky with this chapter either. I was also in Bariloche, which is a town in Argentina, and there was a co-live that was happening at the same time I was there, where I met a bunch of new Wi-Fi Tribe members, and they all seemed equally great. So I don't think it was just the chapter I was on. I think it's just the people in the community. I also met a bunch of people off chapter in Argentina who were like in the tribe, but they weren't signed up for the chapter, if that makes sense. So off chapter, and they were also super cool. We had dinner a few times. Yeah, I truly believe it's the case that most of the people in the community are just really cool, really great, and I think that's thanks to pro number 3, which is the good vetting process. So this, from what I saw, isn't common with most of the biggest travel groups, which is like the application vetting process, interview. At first I thought like this seems like very counterintuitive, right? Like why would they want to deny people who want to give them money to join their community? And it seems like it might be just okay, they just like say that. But I actually have heard of people getting denied. I've heard like friends of friends. I talked to the host and he's like, oh yeah, we deny a good amount of people. And I think it's a cool thing because it's clear that the founders really want to preserve the culture of the tribe, right? Like they're willing to say, no, we don't want your money because I don't think you're a good fit for the tribe. So they're putting like the culture and the values that the tribe holds over the profits, which I think is really cool. And this vetting process was one of the main reasons that I decided to join Wi-Fi Tribe over the other one. I've heard stories from similar communities where people have gotten kicked out in the middle of a trip because they did something awful. And they're just not great people to be around. So yeah, I think the vetting process really helps cut down on that kind of stuff. All right, the next pro I have is that there's a lot of options for trips. So no matter where in the world you are, there's something that should work for your time zone. So there's chapters in the Americas, Europe, Asia, Africa. However, it is very Latin American and Europe focused, I've noticed. But also take this with a grain of salt because they're constantly adding chapters, trying new places. So what might be on the calendar now might not be the same that's on the calendar a year from now. And the last part I have is that there's a lot of diverse people in the tribe, at least in occupation. I'll get to what I mean by that. But it's really cool to have people that work in all different areas, to get a lot of different kinds of people, a lot of different kinds of personalities, and I find that as a huge benefit. Just on my chapter, for example, there were people that worked in tech, of course, but there's also entrepreneurs, writers, dietitians, marketers, security specialists. I was actually impressed with the wide range of occupations there were. I was half expecting there to be a ton of software engineers like me, which would have been awful. There are groups that kind of focus in on that, and if that's what you're looking for, maybe those ones are better for you, which might be great if you're trying to network with a certain type of people, or if you're really into a certain type of thing and you want to talk about that. But for me, as someone who's there to meet different interesting people who I wouldn't talk to normally, this is a big pro in my book. Okay, moving on to the cons. The first con, which was the biggest one for me by far, was the price. And first, let me preface this by saying I know their business, I know they need to make money, and also I knew what I signed up for going into it. The prices are clearly labeled online. But that being said, it does make it a bit harder to justify paying $2,500, $3,000 for accommodation for a month in a city like Buenos Aires, like I did, where you could easily find a place for yourself for easily a third of the price. So I had friends that were staying there that I talked to, and they were paying around $1,000, less than $1,000 for full furnished apartment in Buenos Aires for a whole month. So that's something to keep in mind. But with that said, you also have to realize that you're not only paying for accommodation, you're also paying for the community. It's way more fun to live with 19 other people who are excited to hang out and do fun things than it is living by yourself, in my opinion. So could I have lived in Buenos Aires for a fraction of the cost? Yes. Could I have done most of the same stuff? Definitely. But did I have an incredible time with incredible people? And I'm super glad I did? Absolutely. So it's just whether it's worth it to you. So the second con I found with Wi-Fi Tribe is the lack of diversity. And I know I just complimented the diversity of occupations in the tribe, but let me explain. So it seems like the vast majority of people in the community is made up of Americans, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I'm American myself, but it's always nice to have a good mix of countries, in my opinion. I personally enjoy meeting people from completely different backgrounds, with completely different life experience, different to mine. So that's kind of why I love traveling. So going to a place just with a bunch of Americans, I don't know, it's not the best experience for me, personally. I think this is actually related to the previous point that I made about price, where it's an extra downside of pricing the chapters the way they do, right? Because this just means that people who are from other countries are severely disadvantaged. For this reason, you'll mostly see people from countries like the US, Canada, Germany, New Zealand, Australia, where the earning potential is much higher and their currencies are much stronger. And it makes it a lot harder to meet people from somewhere like Mexico or Colombia, or countries where their earning potential maybe is not as high or their currency isn't as strong. For example, on my chapter there were 20 people, and basically all of them were from the US, except for I believe one from Canada, one from Germany, Australia, and Estonia. The rest were a bunch of Americans. And yes, I do realize that this is a broad generalization based on my experience just from one chapter. I also realized that the chapter I did was in US time zone, so obviously it would tend to skew more American because they can stay in their current time zone, so it makes it easier to balance work. And I imagine in the European time zone chapters there would be more Europeans and maybe less Americans. I don't know for sure, so take my experience with a grain of salt. But from what I've seen and what I've heard, it does skew pretty American, but they do claim to have members from over 60 countries. So the third and final con is definitely on the lighter side, but I do think it's worth making note of, and that's the knowledgeability of the host. So in Wifi Tribe, there's one host for every chapter, but the thing is that the host doesn't necessarily need to have been to the location. So for example, it was our host's first time in Argentina and South America as a whole. Didn't speak any Spanish and was also learning and experiencing everything for the first time, just like all of us. But that being said, our host was awesome and super helpful. I don't want to put him down at all. We love Paul. what I'm trying to say is that in Wi-Fi Tribe, the purpose of the host is not to be a local guide. They're not supposed to tell you all the best places to go. They're really there for resolving issues in your house, in your room, like if your AC breaks, the Wi-Fi isn't good, there's some kind of conflict between members, then that's what the host is for. They're there to help resolve those things and then make sure the chapter flows smoothly. I know some other travel groups, they might provide a host from the local country where they know the language, they know the area, they like grew up there, but Wifi Tribe, they just do it a little bit differently. And I think that's okay. It's just something that is worth pointing out and something that you should know. So now you've heard my opinion on Wi-Fi Tribe. I actually got a chance to talk to a couple members of the tribe who have also done other communities. So let's hear what they have to say about how they compare. Let's start with your name, age, where are you from?
I am Pia from Germany, and I am now 40 years old.
As of last week?
As of last week, yes.
Happy birthday, Pia.
Thank you.
My name is Steve Webb. My occupation is investor and entrepreneur. The air quotes are important.
My name is Dave Roma. I'm a web developer and a marketer, and I've been in Wi-Fi Tribe. Well, I've been a member for about a year, but this is my first chapter.
And I have been in Wi-Fi Tribe since 2017.
I've been in the tribe since 8 months ago. Let's go with 8. 8 sounds more official.
Yeah, Wi-Fi Tribe's pretty similar, I would say, to Hacker Paradise, Be Unsettled, and Remote Year, but it does have some differences. Like, I think with Remote Year, for example, you get like more first-time digital nomads or people that just want to travel. Wi-Fi Tribe, I think, attracts more of like a seasoned traveler, digital nomad, and I think the biggest thing is the community. Well, this is what I've noticed since I've been here for my first chapter. The Wi-Fi Tribe community just seems tighter in general and more active than some of the other programs and their communities.
There's a self-identifying component of all this where a lot of the people that find the tribe are already looking for something. It's not necessarily clear that we're all looking for the same thing, but we're all looking for some level of connectedness. We're all looking for freedom and just essentially a life that we're able to construct on our own terms. And so there's already this group of people that are in search of something that's similar. And then within that, there is the special sauce, which is kind of the interviewing process or just the chapter. Everything about the tribe very much is kind of constructed to accentuate everything that I just mentioned about the people that are already kind of self-selecting. And so when you mix everything together, you just have this really interesting cocktail of people that are looking for a thing and then able to find it because they're all kind of looking for each other without knowing that they're looking for each other. And then whenever you get them all together, it really is magical.
Yeah, I met so many amazing people who just inspire me so much. This always sounds so cliche, but it's like there's different perspectives than stuff that I grew up with or that I look at things, and you get every chapter you get 20 different perspectives on things, right, if you really need it. And there's people crushing it at work or crushing it with their whatever it is they're working on, mental health or fitness or whatever their life goals are. And yeah, just very inspiring, loving, humble group of people, where I can enter a chapter or enter an event that I know there's tribers at and not even worry about the things that I would worry about before or as a teen. Like, are they gonna like me? Am I gonna like them? Is this gonna be fun? Will I just, after 5 minutes, wanna go home and cry in a corner? Like, none of that. I know I'm gonna like 99.9% of these people, and I'm gonna make great friends with 60% of them, and yeah.
So now that you know what Wi-Fi Tribe is, how it works, and a few of the pros and cons, in my opinion, do I recommend Wi-Fi Tribe? And should you join? I think that if you're looking for a remote working travel community and what I said sounds good or interesting to you, I would definitely recommend applying. I'm really happy that I did, and I am really excited to be a part of this community. And I'm really looking forward to other chapters in the future. However, on the other hand, if you feel like some of these things don't sound the best to you, maybe you want trips with more structure, or you aren't as interested in the locations that Wi-Fi Tribe is going to, or maybe you just don't want to go through the interview process, then maybe another travel community might be a better fit for you. But whatever you end up doing, either way, I hope this video was helpful. If it was, please leave a like on this video. It really helps both me and other viewers like you. If you have any other questions about Wi-Fi Tribe, if there's anything that I may have missed, feel free to leave a comment down below and I'm happy to answer those. If you want to check out other videos on my adventures in Argentina with the tribe, check out the videos linked in the description or on screen now. And finally, as always, if you want to follow along with more of the adventures, click on the big red button that says subscribe. Whatever you do from here, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, wherever you are in the world. I appreciate you spending time with me, and I thank you for watching. Peace. Is that it? I think that's it.
That's a wrap.